Hello, this is Lauren, the Cheerful Baker, and thank you for joining me today to make this really delicious cookie dough. If you don't know me, I've been a baker for about 10 years, and I was on the Christmas Cookie Challenge, and the recipe that I made was a chocolate-covered strawberry, and it's my claim to fame because Ree Drummond loved it. And if you can get a recipe that Ree Drummond wants to take away and eat after she comes and talks to you, then you have been successful. So I just wanted to get on and show you how to make the dough. And I know many of you know how to make cookie dough, but for some of you, baking might be new. And so I just wanted to give you some little tips and tricks. Now, when I was coming up with this recipe, it was really funny because the Food Network said, you have to bring your own recipes. And I was not a recipe developer. So that was going to be new for me, but I figured out that I was going to have to figure out how to do it. And I actually bought a book on the science of baking. And one thing that I wanted to do was create a cookie that would be in honor of my parents. Not only because I love my parents, but also because the Food Network really likes that. They like stories. And my dad was a farmer growing up, and we had a big old patch of strawberries in our backyard when I was growing up, and used to go out and pick them all the time. And my mom loves chocolate. So I thought, I wonder how I can come up with a chocolate covered strawberry recipe. So I made so many batches of cookie dough, and I added chocolate chips, and I added chocolate powder, and I added everything that you can imagine until I came up with adding dehydrated strawberry powder and chocolate. I'm losing my mind, you all. And powder, cocoa powder. But it wasn't quite strawberry enough for me. And so I was looking around trying to figure out a way. I got to pull up the recipe here while we're talking. A way that I could make the strawberry flavor really pop, because that's one thing that I wanted. I wanted to do something that was unexpected. And I think when you bite into a chocolate cookie and you taste strawberry, that's unexpected. So I did a little research, and I found out about this strawberry baking emulsion by Lorenz. And I tried it, and it really did make such a huge difference. It really made the strawberry flavor pop. So that's sort of my secret ingredient. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if I can see your all's comments with this, but if you do have a comment, please make sure that you leave it, and I'll answer it after the fact, because I have this new streaming software, and I'm not sure I can see that and do this at the same time. But I'm going to go ahead. I made a little video that I want to share with you all, and I will talk you through what I'm doing in the video. That was easier for me than trying to talk live. I was afraid I would forget something. So the most important thing is when you are making any kind of cookie dough, you want to make sure that your ingredients are room temperature. Your ingredients, meaning your butter, you need to make sure your butter is room temperature. And when you press on it and make a little, you should barely make an indentation. And you'll notice in this video, I'm always terrible about bringing my butter out of the refrigerator as early as I should. So I actually cut my butter into little slices, and that helps it come to room temperature a little quicker. You also want to make sure that your eggs are at room temperature. That's really important. It just helps everything to mix together a lot better. So let me go ahead and start the video, and I'll talk you through it. So here's my old trusty mixer, and I'm taking my Challenge butter. I always want to use really good ingredients, and I really love Challenge butter. It's really creamy. So you'll notice that I've cut it into little pieces. Next, I'm gonna add Crisco. I use Crisco and butter in this recipe because it gave it a little bit of a softness with the Crisco, but then the butter made it have those really good buttery edges. Next, I'm adding in the sugar. And I'll give you the recipe when we're done, tell you where you can find it. I'm mixing the laughs because I thought y'all didn't want to sit here for 3 minutes, but I always cream my butter and sugar for 3 minutes. That way I know that the sugar and the butter are mixed together really, really well. And next, you're going to add your room temperature eggs. And I like to add 1 egg at a time. I also always crack my eggs into a separate bowl. That is so important in case you have a bad egg. You don't want to, mess up your cookie dough. So I'm going to mix that on about medium until it's good and incorporated. And then I can go ahead and put in the other room temperature eggs. If your eggs are a little warm, you'll notice that your mixture is not coming together. It almost looks coagulated. Just keep mixing, and the mixing will warm up the eggs and it'll be okay. But it really is a lot easier if you start with room temperature eggs. So I'm mixing this probably for about a minute, maybe even 30 seconds. Next, I'm gonna add in my vanilla extract and my strawberry emulsion. An emulsion just has more of a powerful taste, a great taste, and it's also, the taste is not going to go away when you bake. And it makes it such a pretty color, look at that. So I'm going to mix that in really, really well. You always want to make sure that you take a spatula, I like a rubber spatula, and you wipe off the beater a little bit and go along the sides so that you can mix it again and you don't have any butter that's not mixed. So that's what I'm doing here. Make sure you clean it off really, really well. Now I'm going to turn it on high and just make sure that it's really good and mixed, that that flavor is mixed all throughout the dough. Well, it's not really dough yet, just the flour and the sugar. Next, you are going to take your ingredients, your dry ingredients, and mix them together. So that's flour, cocoa powder, dehydrated strawberries, salt, and I always love using Himalayan sea salt because I think it's just pretty, and the baking powder. And then you are going to mix this up really, really well with a whisk. And it's important in this recipe that you use baking powder and not baking soda because they both react differently with the Dutch processed cocoa powder. Once you have those mixed, you're going to put in, I don't put in all of it, I put in part of it. Otherwise, you'll kind of have a powder explosion. And you're going to mix this up. I start on low because, again, I don't want an explosion of those dry ingredients. And then once it's kind of mixed, I'm going to turn my mixer up till I know that it's incorporated. Maybe 15, 20 seconds. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, sometimes I'll do this in thirds, sometimes I'll do this in halves, meaning I'll add a third, and a third and mix in between. Sometimes I'll do it in halves. It kind of depends on the size of my mixing bowl, because I use different mixers. Again, you start out at low and then you turn it up till you start mixing to get it really good and incorporated. Doesn't that look delicious? So here I'm adding in my last little bit. Got to get that butter that's not mixed off the top there. Starting low, mix it again. Now you don't want to over mix this dough. If you over mix your cookie dough, it can make your cookies, you know, not quite as tender. So you just want to mix until your mixture is all good and combined. And you know when that is because you don't see any, you know, flour by itself or unincorporated butter. So I always like to do one more scrape along the edge and along the bottom, because sometimes your mixer, your blade does not, you know, your beater blade, whatever that thing is called, doesn't reach all the way to the bottom of your bowl. And so you want to make sure that you get that all around, then mix it one last time to get it all together. And I always make this cookie dough ahead of time and put it in the refrigerator at least 3 to 4 hours, or overnight. I prefer overnight. It really makes it a lot easier to work with when it's chilled. So it is done. Doesn't that look good? Oh, wait until you all make this. It smells incredible. I mean, it smells just delicious. Now, I love this Dough Easy rolling mat. I use it, and then the things on the sides, those are called perfection strips, and this is how I get my cookies all the same thickness. So I'm going to put down some parchment paper, and then I'm going to roll on top using those same perfection strips. I decided to use parchment paper this time because I just wanted to leave it on here and put it in the refrigerator like this. I use the Dough Easy always. If I'm gonna just chill my cookie dough for a few hours, I'll just put the whole thing in the refrigerator, but this dough I made and chilled it overnight. So I love the perfection strips though that come with it. It's fantastic. So once I have this all rolled out, I'll stick it in the fridge, and then the next day when I cut out my shapes, it's already rolled to the thickness that I want, and it makes it so much easier. Also, with parchment paper and the other mat that I showed you, it's great because you do not need to use additional flour, which is great. Oh, I can see your all's comments. Does anybody have a comment or a question about what we've done? Now you can get, let me go back. Hello again. You can go, it says starting soon, stay tuned. I don't want that one. Let's see, let's do this one. You can get this recipe by going to cheerfulbaker.com, and I have a blog. It's really easy to find the blog, and it is the most recent blog post. It says Lauren's chocolate covered strawberry sugar cookie. It's really easy to find. It has a picture of chocolate covered strawberry cookies, and you can find the recipe there. You can also find it on Loran's Oils website. So go check that out. Now next, I'm going to show you how to decorate a cute little cookie using the cookie dough that I just showed you how to make. So this is a cute, I love the body on this snowman. Here I'm taking white piping icing, and I always go about 1/4 of an inch above the cookie and squeeze and allow the line to flow down. It makes it a lot easier to do it that way. If you are touching the cookie when you are creating this line, you're gonna smush the icing down, and your piping icing is gonna have a really good chance of flowing over the edge. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing with the body, And piping icing is about the consistency of toothpaste. And if any of you all saw me on the Christmas cookie challenge, you'll know that this is one of the cookies are similar to what I did on the challenge. It was a whole snowman theme. So next, I'm taking flooding icing and I'm gonna fill in that bottom part of the body. And the most important thing when you're using flooding icing is to make sure that you have enough icing on the cookie. If you don't, you're not going to get that really pretty smooth finish. So not only is it important to have the right consistency, but you want to make sure that you put plenty of icing on the cookie. And then we want there to be a little bit of a break between the top and the bottom. So I'm going to allow this cookie to crust over for about 10 minutes before I go on to the top. And you'll notice right here, I went ahead and I filled the top, and then I did the little arms. Next, I'm taking blue piping consistency icing, and I'm going to create a heart and then another heart. And this is how I create the really cute scarf. You're just squeezing, and I squeeze a little bit more as I get to the end of the heart, and they're just right on top of each other, and then you're gonna have the cutest scarf. Now when I did the head,
Yeah.
I did it exactly like I did the body, but you wanna make sure that this cookie is really good and crusted over before you do this effect right here. Otherwise you'll break that beautiful icing. So I would let it dry about 3 or 4 hours before I attempt to do the scarf. And I did the little hands with 20-second icing, or the sticks, meaning it was not flooding and piping. It was one consistency for both. And I did that after doing the head so that the body had had a little bit of a chance to dry.
I did not.
So what I just did is not a
She
difficult
didn't respond.
thing to do at all, but it makes a really cute effect. The main thing is to make sure that you do have piping icing. Now, I love doing this on the chocolate covered strawberry cookie because you can see a little bit of that icing, a little bit of the cookie behind the arm, and I think it's really pretty. Now I'm gonna draw these 2 little lines down because that's the bottom part of my scarf. And then I'm gonna hold my bag and squeeze, squeeze, squeeze until I have some balls. But I think that chocolate cookie really looks pretty behind the arm. Next, I'm gonna take black. This again is 20-second icing. And I'm gonna go over top of that white body. And if you have peaks, you can just touch it with your scribe. And those are the dots. Next, I'm doing the eyes, and you'll notice I barely move my icing bag. I'm just squeezing to make some big eyes. And then I hope that you can see what I do next. I'm just touching those little tips so that they sink down in. For some reason, this video is like it should be on Instagram instead of YouTube, but I think you get the idea. So what I'm doing next is just taking a little bit of orange and creating his cute little nose. And then the little dots for the mouth are done with the same piping icing. So you're doing basically the same thing for the buttons, the eyes, and the mouth. You're just using the 20-second icing. And again, that's it. But let me show you the hat. This one I did in a little bit of a different order. But I'm just taking that black and I'm going around the top of the hat. And then I'm going to fill it in. And a good little tip when you're using black, I always use, okay, I'll think of it in just a second. I'm old, you all. I can't think of my words sometimes. Do you like that? I'm going to let that dry. And here's where I did. I'm so sorry. This is all janky, but I think you all will still get the idea. I thought I had grabbed the right video, but it's okay. You're just seeing it in two different perspectives. So here I'm going around and I'm doing the head of the snowman. And you can really see in this video that it's super important to really fill that face or any cookie with a lot of icing. And then you can take your scribe and I'm basically holding it horizontal, and you can just wiggle it around to get your icing into place. You're not using that scribe to spread the icing. You're just using it to wiggle the icing into place. Now you're going to see me do the little hands. Again, if you have any little peaks, you can just barely touch it with your scribe, and that'll make them sink right down in. And I don't have to worry about craters because this icing is just a little thicker. Now I'm going to do the bottom part of the hat because the top part has crusted over. And I want there to be a little bit of a differentiation between those two sections. And you do that by dry time. Now this cookie recipe, you don't even have to decorate them. You can cut them out with a round cookie cutter and eat them straight out of the oven. They are so good. They taste a lot like
It'll probably be hard work.
Brownie. Oh, they're so good. A strawberry flavored brownie. But anything is good with a little icing.
Yeah. It is nice.
Now, you saw me do the little eyes earlier, and the mouth, and the buttons, and the scarf. Now, I took this sunset orange, and I'm going to mix that with a little bit of white piping icing. You want this to be thicker. And I'm going to do his little nose. Isn't he the cutest? But of course, the best part is eating. So there's my little cookie, my little snowman cookie. This is how you add some little catch lights to the eyes. You just take white piping icing and you just squeeze out a really small drop and put it in the black. And it'll, even if it's on top a little bit and not down in the icing, it looks super cute. And that just gives him a little bit more personality. And this cookie is upside down, but done. So I hope you all enjoyed that kind of janky video, but I think you get the general idea on how to decorate that cookie. And you can find snowman cookie cutters anywhere. And so if you all decorate a snowman cookie, make sure that you tag me. Again, make sure that you go to cheerfulbaker.com and go to the blog section, and it's the blog. Well, I don't know when you're watching this, so it might not be the first blog, but you can find it very easily because it says Lauren's chocolate covered strawberry sugar cookies. And I hope that you make them, and I hope that you love them. And if you have any questions, put them